Welcome to February 8th, 2009, the first work day of the week. Some of you people out there call this a day to worship your Lord. Well, in a day way it is, but it's a work day. The Lord's Sabbath, the one He wants you to go and congregate on, is the seventh day of the week that we normally call the Saturday. Well, brethren, let's get right on in over to the Lord's Care Ministry. Knowledge and wisdom comes from above. Day 39 of the year 2009. Okay, with that, let's go and try to open up our Bibles so that you can read along with me. Shut this down for a minute. Got away from me. Okay, let's open up our Bible so that you can read along with me. As I've always say, get a pencil and paper, write the chapter and verse down so you can study the whole context at your own leisure, your own time, your own leisure is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and if I go too fast for you, and I probably will, use the pause button down here, and so that you can find chapter and verse and read along with me. Well, let's start with Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 18. Thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. Now let's turn all the way back to Revelation chapter 21 and verse 14. The wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Now let's turn and go to Ephesians chapter 2 verses 19 through 21, and we will read. Ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together is growing unto a holy temple to the Lord, in whom ye also were builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. That cornerstone, you know which one it is? I've had ministers say to me it's the chief cornerstone, a larger one on the ground for the foundation. But actually a cornerstone, you take a pyramid, it's that top stone up there. And that's where Christ sits, right there on top. Okay, let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 3 through 5. If so be you have tasted that the Lord is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of God, and precious, you also as lively stones are built up to a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifice acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Psalms chapter 65 and verse 1. Praise is waiting for thee, O God, in Zion. Wisdom comes from above. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband. Immorality has dire consequences, as I've been telling you right along. Read this woman as a church, good or bad, false or true. This woman read it as a church. Death, Proverbs chapter 2 and verses 18 through 20, and we read, for her house leads down to death. That's that false church. And her path to the dead. None who go to her return, nor do they regain the path of life. So you got to be careful. so you may walk in the way of goodness and keep the path of righteousness. Proverbs chapter 5 verses 3 through 6. For the lips of an immoral woman drip honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but in the end she is bitter as a wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lay hold of hell, that's the grave, lest you ponder her path of life. Her ways are unstable. You do not know them. Now we read Proverbs chapter 7 verses 21 through 27. With her enticing speech she causes him to yield. With her flattering lips she seduces him. Immediately he went after her as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stock, till an arrow struck his liver. As a bird hastens to the snare, he did not know it would take his life, nor therefore listen to me, my children. Pay attention to the word of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths, for she has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. Her house is the way to hell, descending to the chambers of death. Remember, we're talking about the church, a false church. We finish with Psalms chapter 19 and verse 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock, my redeemer. His, a Philippian pilgrim, a workman for God, a friend of Christ. When there is love at home, John 13 verse 34, love one another as I have loved you. In God's way do we trust, never in the tradition of men. Brethren, if you are going down to that building today and worship, what God are you worshiping? Now you say you love the Lord, you love the Father. You open up your hands to Him and say, Father, I love you. But brethren, He tells you to do it on the seventh day of the week. Read Genesis chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. Rest, and rested in them verses is the Hebrew word Sabbath. It's where we get the name of our Sabbath. And He blessed and sanctified, that made holy the seventh day of the week. No other day of the week did He do this. If you're following the tradition of man, you're leading on the broad path that leads to destruction, as told in Matthew 7 and verse 14. You went on the narrow path in that same chapter, verse 13, and you'll find that the narrow path leads to the kingdom and salvation, and there be few there that find it. If you want to find it, get down on your knees and repent for not following the Lord in any of His commandments. And if you truly want a change in your heart, the Father and the Son will hear you. Well, brethren, with that, we're closing it off for today. You all have a great and wonderful day. I know I will. And God willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.